Welcome back to the Roar Podcast, Sports Edition, the very first edition of this new school year. I'm Brayton Bowen,
And I'm Jacob Susong.
the newest Pennant sports team member. Jacob is a big sports, he watches a lot of sports, and I'll let him say what he wants to say.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on the show this year. I do watch a lot of sports, and I enjoy sports a lot, so hopefully I can contribute.
So the very first topic that we're going to cover on today's episode, is, Jacob and I are both really big baseball guys. So we're going to talk about the World Series just a little bit. The Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros, they won their pennants, the National League for the Braves and the American League for the Astros. And ultimately, the Braves ended up winning the World Series in 6 games. 7th game was not needed. They won the series 4-2. I would say that the Braves, their hitting and their trade deadline acquisitions was what kind of put them over the top, and I think that's what really pushed them to win this World Series. If you agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like the Braves pitching was also a little bit better than the Astros. They had a bunch of guys in the rotation. They had a really deep rotation with guys like Charlie Morton. Him getting hurt, early in the series kind of hurt them, but they pushed through that. They had other guys like Ian Anderson really step up in the World Series, which really led to a nice series from them. It was like the second World Series in team history, so that was fun to watch.
Yeah, so just to go over a little quick recap of how the games went down. Atlanta won Game 1 in Houston 6-2 with a couple big hits from their acquisitions. Jorge Soler, Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, all those guys had hits, and I think a couple of them actually had home runs in the first game, and Atlanta won that game 6-2. Game 2, the Astros won the second game 7-2 in Houston. They played 2 games in Houston and then 2 games in Atlanta, and then 1 game in each for Game 5 and 6. Astros won this game 7-2 behind just basically dominant pitching from the whole staff. Jose Urquidy, I believe is how it's pronounced, went 5 innings as a starter, and then every single bullpen arm that they brought in just did the job, didn't allow any runs.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Their bullpen really performed well in the series. It was a little bit of an underrated bullpen. Nobody really thought of their bullpen as a real powerhouse, but they definitely outperformed the Astros in that department.
Game 3 went back to Atlanta, and Atlanta won this one in a more of a defensive and pitching game. There's only 8 hits combined, a final score of 2-0. The Astros only accumulated 2 hits. And one of them, the first hit actually, I believe, didn't come until the 8th inning of this game, and it was a blue hit that some believe the left fielder could have came in and made a play on. And so 2 hits in the majority of baseball games that's not really going to get you much, even when your pitching staff only allows 2 runs the whole game.
Yeah, I felt like throughout the series, the Astros really just struggled to put the bat on the ball, and it really cost them a couple games in the series.
Yeah. Game 4 was still in Atlanta. Atlanta won this one 3-2. With this game was kind of more of also a pitching, I would guess you could say, with only 5 runs scored. The Braves went on top in the bottom of the 7th, and then it was just a matter if the bullpen could come through, and they did. Their guys that they used in the 8th and 9th inning, they both pitched 1 inning with not giving up any hits or walks, and they both struck out one of their hitters that they faced. And yeah, I mean, 3-2. It's not really that much of an exciting game, but the Braves did come away with Game 4, and then the Astros. So after Game 4, Atlanta was up in the series 3-1. Game 5 in Atlanta still. Okay, so they played 2 games in Houston and then 3 games in Atlanta, and then they were going to play the last 2 in Houston if needed. Okay, sorry, I was wrong earlier on the story. I mean on the show. Game 5 was still in Atlanta, and the final score, Houston did come through and win this one 9-5. Houston had 12 hits, and it was just an all-around slugfest for the Astros, and their starter actually gave up 5 runs in his 2 2/3 that he pitched, but the bullpen didn't give up any after that. And yeah, the Braves bullpen did give up the majority of the runs in this one. as one of their bullpen arms in one inning only gave up 3 hits and 3 runs and walked 2, and then another guy they brought in for 3 innings gave up 5 hits and 2 earned.
One of the things I was going to bring up was home field advantage. I feel like that was one of the most underrated aspects of the series because the Atlanta Braves, throughout the postseason, only lost 1 home game throughout the entire postseason. And I feel like that was one of the underrated aspects of the series because obviously the Braves pulled through in most of their home games this postseason. And I feel like it had a big role in the series. So.
And then in Game 6, as we know, we established earlier, the Braves won 7-0. I feel like the Astros kind of just gave up after, in the 3rd inning, a 3-run home run was hit, I believe. And the Braves only out-hit the Astros 7-6, and they ended up winning 7-0. So I believe this was a couple of home runs. And starter Max Fried for the Braves went 6 innings, gave up 0. And then their bullpen came in and did their thing and shut the door. But their reliever pitched 2 innings, struck out 4. And the whole offense just kind of came through and did their thing. They scored 7 runs, and the Astros just did the opposite. So that is what went on with the World Series. The Braves won, and the Astros, as many actually I would say kind of wanted, they lost. And the Braves are back on top. Now on to the NFL. We're going to do a quick standings check, and we're going to talk just a smidge about the last night's Thursday night football game. As you may not know, we are from Indiana, and Jacob and I are both Colts fans, and we are excited about last night's performance from the Colts and how they played. So, Jacob, why don't you start talking about the AFC just a little bit?
I feel like the most interesting division in the AFC right now would be the AFC West. You got the Raiders in first place, the Chargers in second, but then you got the Chiefs in third, which many people probably didn't expect the Chiefs to be in third at this point in the season. Coming off of a Super Bowl runner-up performance last year, MVP Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and a bunch of stars on the offensive side of the ball. Many people thought that they would probably be right back where they were last year, this year. Really hasn't been the case. Their offense hasn't been clicking. Their defense has been quite atrocious so far this year. And right now it's really not looking good for the Chiefs. But yeah, that's the AFC West.
What would you do if the Raiders win this division? Would you be really surprised?
I would be quite surprised to see the Raiders win this division just with everything that went on with John Gruden and all the emails that came out.
And their new star receiver just...
their star receiver, he got himself in trouble. But I think the Raiders right now, I would be surprised if they won, but I wouldn't be surprised if they made the playoffs, made the wild card, because I think they have a good team. I think their offense, they have some guys on their offense that can really perform, and they also have, a solid defense. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them make the wild card or something like that. But I don't see them winning the division as of right now, even though they're in first place. I think one team in that division that really could surprise some people would be the Chargers. They have quarterback Justin Herbert, second year out of Oregon. He is playing very well right now. They have a couple guys on their offense. Austin Eckler, running back, he is having a career year this year. But I could see the Chargers winning that division if the Chiefs don't figure things out on the defensive side of the ball right now. But yeah, the AFC West is really a toss-up as of right now. Another division that is interesting in the AFC is the AFC South. With Derrick Henry getting hurt for the Titans, them being in first place, you never really know how much that's going to affect their team. Already this far into the season, they've had quite a good season so far. They're 6-2. They beat the Colts twice, which really puts the Colts in a hole.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, for the rest of the year to win the division. The Colts could still make the wild card, and they could still win the division.
I can find it hard to see the Colts making a wild card spot because take out all the division leaders. The Bengals are 5-3, Chargers are 4-3, Steelers are 4-3, the Chiefs are 4-4. Odds are they'll figure it out. odds are the Chiefs are going to do something. Also, speaking of the AFC North, no, we weren't talking about the AFC North. We were talking about the South. Off topic. AFC North is also a very, very. We don't know what's going to happen in that division, as the whole division is separated by 2 games. Odell Beckham Jr., former star receiver, he still is a star, but he hasn't been getting the respect and the targets that he deserves as a receiver. As the Browns, I wouldn't say unconditionally, they conditionally released him today, and so I think it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. If I'm the Colts, or if I'm a team that really, as a Colts fan, we know T.Y. Hilton is going to be. He's probably done after this year, and therefore Odell Beckham could be that guy. Yeah. Although he does bring attention and he does seek he's kind of like a Cam Newton, if you can kind of understand, where the media and everybody is just drawn to Odell Beckham Jr., which I don't know if that would be really beneficial to the Colts. But finishing the AFC, in the AFC North, the Ravens 5-2, Bengals 5-3, Steelers 4-3, and the Browns 4-4. I legitimately could see anybody winning this division, although I don't think the Steelers will. I think the Bengals will fall off just a little bit. I don't think they started off 5-2, and then I'm pretty sure they lost to the Jets last week. Yeah, and the Colts just demolished the Jets. So
yeah, in the North, I feel like it's the Ravens' division to win. I think they have the best team. Obviously, the Browns could turn things around, but they're 4-4 right now. But I think they can turn things around. The Bengals, I think they're going to fall off as well, and the Steelers really. I just feel like with Big Ben getting older, he's not very mobile. I really don't see them doing much.
Okay, so on to the NFC. We have, in the NFC East, it's basically the Cowboys, and then everybody else is garbage. Cowboys, are 6-1. The rest of the division is multiple games behind. NFC West, there's 2 teams that are 7-1, the Cardinals and the Rams. One of those teams will win the division, and one of those teams will be in the wild card, and the rest of the division, similar to the NFC East, is garbage. NFC North is, ironically, just like the NFC East. The Packers are 7-1, and everybody else is basically garbage. And then the worst team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions, is also in that division. They're 0-8. They're a brand new coach, and they have not won a football game. They've allowed the most points in all the NFL, and they've probably scored very low as well. NFC South is a really interesting one because the Saints, as if you follow football for a while, Drew Brees has been their guy for the longest time. And he retired after last season, and they've got a new guy, Jameis Winston, and he's led them to a very strong start. But Jameis Winston, in their most recent game, tore his ACL and had some other structural damage on his knee. Therefore, they don't really have a quarterback. But they are 5-2, and they're only 1 game back of the Buccaneers in first place right now. So that does add some interesting, I guess you could say, drama to that division. But the rest of the division is pretty average. The Panthers at 4-4, who the Panthers actually started out really well, and they've lost, I believe, their last few games. And the Falcons are 3-4, who aren't really that much of a threat. And I think that the winner of the NFC is going to be either the Cardinals or the Rams. I think especially with the Packers, Aaron Rodgers just tested positive for COVID, so he can't play for a couple weeks. So that means who knows what's going to happen with the Packers.
As far as the NFC goes, I think that hands down the best team in the NFC is the Rams. I know right now they're tied with the Cardinals, but I think as far as just the entire team goes, defense, offense, special teams, I think that the Rams are the cream of the crop in this division in the NFC.
So if you had to pick, who are your 2 favorites to win each conference? You said the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams for the NFC, and then AFC. I think right now it's kind of a toss-up. If I had to give one team in the AFC,
I'm taking the Bills.
I think I'm going to take the Bills. The Bills have really, they have a complete team. They have an offense. Their defense is pretty solid. Josh Allen at quarterback. He is an MVP caliber player. But yeah, I think the Bills are definitely the best team in the AFC, and then obviously the Rams for the NFC right now. That would be my favorite.
I would have to agree. Or I do think the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals have an extremely good shot. This could be their first time being good in a little while. Or the Packers, if Aaron Rodgers, with all that drama that happened. Ironically, the Packers are 7-1, and their points allowed is very similar to their points scored. So going on to an exact NFL game that happened last night, Indianapolis Colts versus the New York Jets. the Colts they ran away with this game. It was just the Colts finally got the coach got some slander for the play calling that was put on display last week against the Titans, where their star running back and one of the future stars and one of the most brightest players in the NFL, Jonathan Taylor. He didn't get that many carries compared to all these other stud running backs that are getting almost 20 carries a game, getting 100 plus rushing yards a game, scoring all these touchdowns. The coach heard all that and he said, "You know what? I need to give my pony some carries." He gave him 19 carries, and he got a $172, averaged 9.1 yards a carry, and got 2 touchdowns. And as a Colts fan, I can't tell you how happy I am just to look at this stat line and see that our stud running back that we spent a very high draft pick on is averaging 9.1 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns on a short rest week. Got 172 yards. I mean, that's got to give you something to look forward to, does it not?
For the Colts, I think that running the ball is definitely the formula for success. Obviously we have Carson Wentz at quarterback. He hasn't had that bad of a year. I think people are overreacting to some of his interceptions. I think he's going to figure things out. But, yeah, as a Colts fan, I want to see them run the ball. I think Jonathan Taylor is, one of the best running backs in the league. I was super happy when we drafted him out of Wisconsin. But, yeah, I think our defense is good enough to win football games. Our offense, as long as we execute in the running game, I think we're hard to beat as a team. But yeah, Jonathan Taylor, you can't say enough about that guy. He works his tail off, and it definitely shows on Sundays. And as for last night, it was a Thursday, but he definitely works hard, and it shows.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz, I would say, despite his couple forcing the ball down the field and making some mistakes, last week against the Titans, he had 2 interceptions. He only has 3 interceptions on the whole season. 17 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. If you take away those 2, I would say, mental mistakes and just wanting to do too much with the ball against the Titans in overtime and late in the game last week, he has 17 touchdowns and 1 interception, maybe 2 if some things fall here and there. You don't know what's going to go on with that. I would say this move is one of the most underrated pickups, it was a trade. One of the most underrated trades for the Colts. They traded away a pretty high-valued pick, second-round pick, potentially could be a first, with Philadelphia. I don't know I don't remember the conditions of the pick, what it was. Maybe we'll have to look that up here in a minute. But I don't remember what the condition was. Yeah, Jake, could you look that up? What the condition was? Not DeForest Buckner. Jacob looked at DeForest Buckner on his computer. Just look up Carson Wentz trade condition. Carson Wentz has been a very valuable asset to the Colts, as he's already passed for 2,200 yards with 17 touchdowns. I mean, I don't think you can really ask for that much more. And yeah, the Colts are 4-5 right now, but I mean, I would say that the Colts have a very, very bright future, and I would say the Colts won this trade.
Yeah, I agree with that. The conditions of the pick, the 3rd round pick is locked in, but the 2022 second rounder turns into a first rounder if Wentz plays 75% of the snaps this year for the Colts. So basically, what that means is
it's going to be a first round pick.
It's basically going to be a first round pick. I still feel like the Colts are going to win that trade in the end. Obviously, you never know with who the Eagles draft and how they turn out.
The Eagles are terrible at drafting.
They are a pretty bad drafting team compared to the Colts. The Colts are, I feel like that's one of the understatements of this Colts team and just front office is that their drafting is second to none. A couple years ago, drafting Quentin Nelson, obviously that turned out very well. Darius Leonard, linebacker, he has turned into one of, if not the best linebackers in the league. And I feel like the Colts front office does a great job on draft night and just scouting and everything like that. But yeah, I really like the Colts right now.
Me too. So that's going to wrap up the very first episode of the Roar Podcast Sports Edition. I feel like Jacob and I went into decent depth with NFL, and we talked about the World Series a little bit. Next time, we're going to be able to talk about more NFL, and we're going to be able to talk about the college football playoff and the rankings, and college basketball is going to be starting up. and it's gonna be a fun time. We're gonna have a lot of things to talk about, and we thank you guys so much for tuning in to our first episode of the year. Hopefully, it was easy to transition from Garrett and I to Jacob and I. I think Jacob's gonna do an amazing job, and thank you guys so much for listening today, and have a good one.